Hi team. When I say that ancient Greece is one of the most important civilizations in history, it's not an exaggeration. But did you know that everything they were going to contribute to history was almost destroyed before it could happen? We've already learned about two important reasons why the Greeks are such a great civilization. They were the first people to abolish a form of slavery, as we saw in the case of Solon. And they were the first people to achieve democracy, thanks to Cleisthenes. But we're just getting started. And like I said, they were almost destroyed before they had a chance to do anything else. The small collection of Greek city-states was in the sites of the largest empire the world had seen at that time, the Persian Empire. We saw the Persian Empire in our Anchor Fact series on ancient Egypt. Persian kings conquered Egypt and became its pharaohs for centuries. But when they arrived in Greece, they met their match. Athenian democracy had just begun, circa 508 BC, when the most eastern Greek city-states, many of which were islands, or were actually in what we call Turkey today, rebelled against the Persians, who had begun to conquer the region. This Ionian revolt, as it's called, triggered the Greco-Persian Wars. When we study history at Knowable World, we always focus on the most important events that help us to understand the world we live in. We have now arrived at what is probably the most important war in history. Most people think of the modern world wars as the most important in our time. It's hard to imagine that something could be even more important. If the world wars resulted in an American-led victory over the Empire of Japan and Nazi Germany, it's not impossible to exaggerate how important that was. But what if there had never been an America at all? What if there had never even been a Europe for America to become independent from? Both of these cultures have their roots in ancient Greece. So if ancient Greece had not survived the Greco-Persian Wars, it is completely predictable that neither Europe nor America would ever have existed. Nothing can measure up to a war with that much of an impact. Since the Greco-Persian Wars lasted from circa 500 to 449 BC, that's almost 50 years, there are a lot of details we could cover. But as usual, we are going to focus on the most important ones. After failing in a first attempt to attack Athens by sea and losing the Battle of Marathon, the Persians under their king Xerxes were marching an army of perhaps 2 million, if ancient accounts are to be believed, into Greece. Standing in their way were 300 Spartans and their allies. That sounds impossible, I know, but the Greeks were barely getting organized as an alliance when the Spartan king Leonidas took his personal bodyguard of 300 men, along with a couple thousand allies, to a mountain pass called Thermopylae. This location was chosen because it was pretty much the only path that the large Persian army could use to enter the heartland of Greece. Greece is a mountainous place, and it's hard to move through. And the Spartan warriors were the greatest the world had ever seen. Organized into what is called a phalanx, the Spartan warriors formed a human wall of power made of shields and spears. The Persians attacked over and over, but could not penetrate the Spartan wall, because it was impossible for the much larger Persian force to attack all at once. They had to go against the Spartans in small numbers. After a week of being stopped, the Persian king found a way to sneak a force behind the Greeks and attack from both sides. The 300 gave their lives. It is considered one of the greatest sacrifices in the history of war. They had delayed the Persian advance long enough for the rest of the Greeks to prepare. Knowing that they still couldn't stop the Persians, the Athenians retreated to the island of Salamis, protected by their navy. At the almost as famous Battle of Salamis, the Persian navy was destroyed. King Xerxes was demoralized. He took half his army back with him and left another commander to try to defeat the rest of the Greeks. But the combined Greek army defeated the remaining commander yet again. After decades of fighting, the Persians retreated and never threatened Greece again. The result was that Greece was free to be Greece. In the period that followed, The Athenian Golden Age laid the foundations of all the progress we have been lucky enough to inherit. Science, philosophy, art, and freedom reigned in just one place on earth. But it was enough. The future was saved. In the next lesson, we will talk about one of the greatest results of the war, the Greek invention of the study of history. See you then.